Today's February 20th. Pirates made a move today. Andrew Heaney has been signed, and we're going to talk about it. Robots, too. They're coming. We're going to talk about what that looks like. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins, guys, thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about the Pittsburgh Pirates net. My name is Josh. Jake is at work. No Jake tonight. We're going to do this thing solo. Chat, I'm going to need you, just like always. But we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop for anything. The Pirates have signed Andrew Heaney. There's actually something to talk about, guys. Doug says he just wants to talk about Cruz and Reynolds home runs, even if it's the only way to feel better about them. There's a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. All in all, though, in the chat, you like this? You like the Heaney signing or not? Let me know. Let me know. It seems to be, from the pulse of what I'm looking up and everything, that this is generally positive reaction to this. Of course, like we always do, we're going to run with speculation on basically what this means. OG says he likes it. Bucko Mike says good deal. But we're going to speculate. Oh, that means somebody's on their way out, right? But I think, recently the news came out that Oviedo was essentially not cleared yet. Not cleared to face live hitting. So if that's the case, I think it's pretty safe to assume Oviedo probably not on the opening day roster, right? So Doug says, good signing. Enough said. Let the conspiracies commence. Yeah, I mean... Because now they're trading somebody, right? Or, like I said, Oviedo, I think that's a pretty safe bet. Oviedo's not going to start the season in the majors. He's going to be on the injured list. We talked about this. Jake made a statement that he wouldn't be ready, and I said, no. He's going to be from what we're hearing, like he's there, he's throwing. Well, then it just came out in between that show and this show that like you haven't seen him in live ABs, and there's a reason for that. He's not been cleared for that yet. If that's the case, it's like I said, it's likely you're not going to see that. So I think that makes a lot of sense. But you got a new pitcher today. I'm trying to figure out where we want to start with this. I guess you can go through the numbers, right? If we were to look at Heaney, we're looking at a guy with a 4.28 in 2024, 4.28 ERA, 31 starts, 160 innings, 159 strikeouts. So he's right there, almost at 8.9. And then, a 1.25 whip and a 4.04 FIP. And when you look at that, it feels like maybe the 4.28 is a little bit, I don't know. Maybe it's right there. Maybe 4.28 seems to make a little bit of a sense on the ERA side. But you could see where that could get better. He signs for $5.25 million. And the other piece at this, I think is kind of interesting to talk about is that it's coming out now that Jose Quintana was actually close to signing with the Pirates, but eventually turned it down. Right. So then it was Robert Murray come out and said that the Pirates offered more to Quintana than they did to Heaney, and then pivoted. And then Hector Gomez came back out and said they offered him 5.5. So yes, more, but not like it's not like they offered him 8 million and they settled in 5. They were right around this same number for both pitchers. But I'll share this early on, right? I'm going to share my screen here. And you have Bailey Falter on here, Andrew Heaney, Jose Quintana. This is just Baseball Reference stat head versus. And it just breaks down the numbers for each guy. Bailey Falter doesn't have the most of any of these statistics. Okay. He's behind in everything. However, when you look at the two players, it's a little bit split between Quintana and Andrew Heaney. And we're going to get to that WAR here in a little bit. 2.5 for Jose Quintana, B WAR, Andrew Heaney, 0.8. But there's the 31 starts for each guy, 10 extra innings for Quintana. We're not caring about wins and losses here. You had a guy on Texas who wasn't good and a guy on the Mets who was. A 4.28 ERA for Heaney to a 3.75 from Quintana. Okay, that's a big difference, right? The ERA is a big difference, but you've got more strikeouts, a better percentage from Heaney. And because you have more strikeouts, you're going to have a little more. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You have less walks. You have less walks from Heaney, which is better on the other side too. So more strikeouts, less walks. You got to like that. If you look at some of the numbers, and if I go down here, it's not really going to show me. So I'm going to have to go somewhere else, because what's important is if I look over at Fangraphs, of course, Baseball Reference has their own WAR. Fangraphs has their own WAR. And if you look at the WAR all the way on the right here, I think you can see it on the screen there. Andrew Heaney, 2.2. Bailey Falter, 1.7. Jose Quintana, 1.0. So as far as Fangraphs, they actually favor Heaney over Quintana. Fielding independent pitching, much better for Heaney than it was for Quintana, who had a 4.56. And yet you look at those ERAs, 3.75 to 4.28. So maybe some bad luck, right? A little bit of that. I mean, I can see where they're pretty even, but I like Heaney here. Really. Bucko Mike says the walk rate of 5.9% was the lowest of Heaney's career. So that's fair. Good to point that out. But if you get a lefty and Alex Stumpf put out, he gave up 23 home runs last year. Where's my note here? And going by Baseball Savant would have only given up 18 homers if they were all at PNC Park. So there's a little bit there to kind of look at and say, hey, if you like the idea of Quintana coming in, then you pretty much like the idea of Andrew Heaney coming in, because they're very similar in a lot of ways, and in some ways, a little better. Heaney's numbers in the past are really a mixed bag. You have some good numbers some years. 2023, it was a 4.15. 2022, his best year as far as ERA is concerned, a 3.10. The year before that, a 5.83, bouncing between two teams. And at several years in LA, he was involved in the trade. He was involved in the trade from Miami to LA that Kike Hernandez came over in. I'm trying to think of who went back in that trade. I think that was D. Strange Gordon, Dan Herron, another guy, maybe the best guy. I don't remember. But I think there was another guy in that trade too. But Andrew Heaney was kind of big in that one, and he spent a lot of years in LA. Well, let's LA, but the Angels. So the other LA. He did have his best year in 2022 with the Dodgers, but he spent most of those years with the Angels. But that doesn't make any sense for what I just said. He was involved in the Kike trade, I thought. Yeah, he was. And then the Dodgers the Dodgers traded him to LA Angels for Howie Kendrick. Okay. I was going to say, wait a minute. Yeah, that makes sense. And it was Miguel Rojas was the other guy in that trade that went to Miami. So it was Kike, Chris Hatcher, Austin Barnes, who spent a lot of time with the Dodgers as well in that. And then D. Strange Gordon, Dan Herron, Miguel Rojas going the other way. He was a big prospect that was kind of like, he was always the next best thing. And then you go to LA, you go to Anaheim. Let's just put it that way. Not a great place for pitchers to be. His first year there, 18 starts, 3.49 ERA, 105 innings, looked to be as advertised. And then it kind of fell off from that point. And it really hasn't been good until 2022. So maybe something's clicking. If you tell me that a lefty can come into Pittsburgh and give us like low 4 ERA, last 2 years, 4.15, 4.28, man, I mean, I think I'm signing up for that, to be honest with you. I really think I am. I mean, Bailey Falter, who was good at times last year, was a 4.43. And so Heaney's going to go above him. I would assume. Veteran, 1.25 WHIP. That was the other piece to that comparison with Quintana. Where's that at on the one I pulled up? Of course not. It's not there. Last year, Quintana had a 1.25 WHIP. Same exact. Kind of hard to argue with the path the Pirates went here and saying, this is what we're offering you. And if that's what he's going to turn down, we can move on to Heaney because we've got a guy, right? We've got a guy that's right there. So Keith Wendell, we just talked about the 5.5 that they offered to Q. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm the Pirates, and let's talk about Ben Cherington for a minute, because haters, I mean, I think he kind of got something right today. If he offered 5.5 to Q and he turned it down, you could have went higher. But if you had Heaney in talks too, and he was closer to the 5.25, why wouldn't you go straight to Heaney and say, no, I think bang for buck value, according to what we're looking at least as far as 2024 is concerned, it's hard not to just say this is the route you want to go. Even the whip going to 2023, they were close, a little bit higher for Heaney on a 1.378. Kind of that place you don't want to be, but Quintana was at a 1.308. So I don't know. Bucko Mike says 3.98 ERA last year at PNC for Bailey Falter. And this is a guy who had, what did we say? 440, 460. What was the ERA there? 443. PNC Park is good for left-handed pitching, man. It really is. And the Pirates essentially have told Bubba Chandler that he's likely not starting with the team unless there is a trade. Unless there is. Miles says, stop the trade fear comments. Tell me who the 8 to 11 starting pitchers needed for a season would be without adding a durable starting pitcher. It's a good point. What's up, Seth? Mike says 4.25 ERA, pitched in 160 innings. That's a great deal in this free agent market for starting pitching. Fangraphs had him projected at 12.5. I think a 2-year. Now I know that some of that is out, fan vote as well, but 12.5, and we're here now. I understand spring training starting. Heaney's 33 years old. He'll be 34 in June. He's probably motivated to sign somewhere. And for a left-hander, good business decision, man. We've seen so many guys. Quintana's one of them, but Anderson was another one. Left-handers who in the past have come here, and I mean, my goodness, Francisco Liriano, what he did, who've come here and done well and then moved on to other things. Obviously, Liriano came here and did well. It got bad before he left, but the idea is what they're able to do with some of these lefties to bring them in, that let them have some success here. And then, if it's a 1-year deal, you can go make more money next year. Heaney has the potential to be able to do that, and I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. For anything that I can read, this is a good signing. This is exactly what you want. Man, I like it. They've done well here. 2023 was in the World Series with the Rangers. There's some good there. Did he pitch in the World Series? It's a good question. So we have that here. Postseason pitching 2023. Yeah, he pitched 5 2/3 innings in the World Series. It doesn't say what game, but holy cow. 5 2/3 inning in a start. Nope. In 2 games, 1 start. 1.59 ERA, gave up 1 run, walked 2, struck out 3. So he's got some experience there. Even pitched 2 games. He won all 3 of his games he pitched in the playoffs in 2023. ALDS, ALCS, and World Series. Looks like he came out of the bullpen and won a game. Actually, maybe he didn't deserve the second win. The ALCS, he came in and pitched 1.2 innings and gave up a walk, and did he give up a homer? I don't know, but he gave up 3 runs. He somehow got the win with a 16-20, but he had a little bit better, more out of the bullpen there for him in Texas. So maybe not as good when you look at that. When you look at that 2023 run, if you look a little bit deeper, but nonetheless, they trusted to give him the ball. So, but not quite what I thought it was at first glance. I hadn't looked at that prior to, so that was good. So yeah, Bucko Mike says Heaney at Arlington, 3.64 ERA. Bucko Mike, you can put wins and losses in those chats all you want. I'm not going to read them. I don't care. I don't care about them. All right. We got to hit this because I haven't yet.
Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
So you may as well celebrate Andrew Heaney being signed. Right? No, he's not from Hawaii or anything. I just, got to do it. 412 double play. Michael here says Heaney had a bad start and a bad finish. 6.26 ERA over 23 innings pitched in April. 5.96 ERA over 25 2/3 innings in September. In between, 3.48 in over 111 1/3 innings stretch. More and more things keep coming out that make me feel better about this. Yark says, only concern I have with Heaney is the velo drop the last few years. Other than that, I love it. There's other ways to get people out. Velo is not the only way. I've said it 100 times. I've said it a million times. I understand what you're saying. It's not without saying, but I think two things can happen. You get past 30, sure, you can have a velo drop. Some guys don't, some guys do. But you also learn to pitch better. The more experience you have, the more the more you can learn to get outs with or without the velo. Even, I mean, learning to spin more even, or just in general work a count, throw to hitters, get them out. Location. There's a lot to go into the experience of, I mean, this guy's logged 1,000 innings in the major leagues. And really not, like I said, it's been a mixed bag, but there's been good years. He made $12 million and $13 million the last 2 years, coming off of what he did in 2022, which was, no, he made $12 million that year. So 5.25 is, I try not to let the salary of the player really play a big part in this, but like, it's the same thing I say with Key Brian Hayes. Like the money, if he's just average at the plate, he's well worth the money because of the defense. So Douglas, maybe pitching and defense is the better investment. The problem is I'm not sure how good the defense is right now. We just don't know yet. There's a lot to learn about the defense. But pitching, yeah. It's not a huge investment, though. Who are they paying for in the staff? I mean, it's Mitch Keller. I wouldn't even call this. Anything less than $8 million is less than a free agent average player. If he's average, if he's under 450, he's worth the money we paid him, period. I mean, that's literally it. Like for that, that's not a lot. I understand Pirates money, right, is different than a lot of, than the league money, but it shouldn't be. To a certain extent, it shouldn't be. $5 million is $5 million. It's not, that's arbitration money. I just can't get past that. I can't get past that. The value of this trade, the value of this signing is already, if he pitches 2 games and gets hurt, it was like, it was worth it for $5 million. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's how I'm feeling on it. I think this is even better with the Quintana stuff coming out. Even better, I feel about it, because not only did, as much as we've said this offseason, not only did Ben go out and try to get a left-handed pitcher for this rotation to bolster it and to make sure that there was 5 out of the gate, he even had a backup plan in place so that he could turn one guy down, well, so that he could pivot off of a decline. He could have said he declined. I mean, in the years past, we've seen it with Shoto. We've seen it with, what's his name that went to the Mets that I can't think of right now, Minaya. We've seen it, with a couple other pitchers that maybe that weren't as high profile as that when they got turned down, it was like, oh, we were in on that guy, but we missed out. The guy that went to the Blue Jays from Cuba, who really hasn't been a whole lot yet, but Dave White says Falter isn't getting paid half that. I'm telling you, Andrew Heaney could be the number 3 guy in this rotation if they decide to split the lefties. If they decide to split the lefties up in the rotation, I think you go Skeens, Keller, Heaney, and then Jones, Falter. I think Keller will be up there. I know a lot of people will say Jones or Keller. I think Keller's still leader of the staff as the veteran, so he'll be up there. And it takes a little bit of pressure off Jones too, which I think is important in certain scenarios. But Heaney wouldn't need that. Put the veteran up there in the number 3. And then, you get Jared Jones that 4 spot just to split up the lefties. It's once you get into the season, you rarely really need that 1 through 5 to be in order anymore. You would like to believe that every time you go in with Skeens, you're going to be facing their ace and it gives you the best chance to come out of there with a win. But it just doesn't line up that way. Everybody doesn't play the same amount of games on the same amount of days. So it doesn't always line up that way. I'm not concerned with that. Left-handed pitchers are good for PNC Park. They had 2 lefties right there that they were talking to at the same exact time. Plan B, guys. He actually had a plan. And he carried it out. So, kudos to Ben Sherrington here. What he's done today. Kudos. It's good. It's good. It's worth it. I mean, we're gonna criticize, then we give credit, right? That's how we do. That's how we do. What else we got on Andrew Heaney? I will tell you guys, solo show today. Jake's working late, and I'll be honest. I have a way I go about this when I'm doing the solo show. If I have specific stuff that I'm bringing up, or if it's in season, like what we're going to talk about takes care of itself when they're playing games. But in the off season, I still kind of consider this in a place where we're kind of in the off season now. But we go through this, like I'll get some people in here to talk with me. When I have trouble doing that is when I can't tell them what I'm going to talk about. And all this stuff came up late. So I didn't have a whole list of like, hey, why don't you come on the show? We're going to talk about this, that, and the other. And I really didn't have that this week. It was mostly, this, you guys probably, this is a little peek into the life here, but starting this year back in the office 3 days a week, not fully remote. And it's essentially a phone down kind of place, right? So while I'm working from home, I still get some news here and there, adjusting a little bit to be in the office 3 days a week. So that's been fun. But Dave White says, while I'd like to have Skeens, Jones, and Keller in a 3-game series, I think it's best to have the rotation order that you mentioned. So, Dave White, you're kind of the same thing. Split up the lefties, right? Because then if you are going, I'm thinking about some of the teams that, some of the big players that we're going to be going up against in our division. And let's think about Cincinnati, Chicago, and Milwaukee just for starters. We'll leave St. Louis out of it. I think a lot of us are a little down on St. Louis right now. But if you look at the Cubs, for one, just got Kyle Tucker, who's left-handed. And I think that's really going to be their big bat there this year. They also have a couple others that are left-handed, but like that, to me, that's the one I'm scared of, left-handed. When you go to Milwaukee, Yelich is left-handed. They do have Hoskins and Contreras that are right-handed, but Yelich being left-handed, I can't remember if I know Churio is at least right-handed. I'm not sure if he's switch or not. But the big, you got Yelich there, you got Yelich there, and then we got rid of Bellinger from the division. But then in Cincinnati, Ellie De La Cruz, lefty bat there is big, and really, they're pretty heavy there with the righties. So when you look at the best hitter in the division, you're going to send righties up there all the time. It's a huge advantage to have Ellie hitting from the right side. He's not really figured it out at the major league level right-handed yet. So, yeah, Mike, that definitely, the news changed plans for the show. And in a good way. Anytime something like this happens, you're like, yeah, scratch it. I scratched something. I said, screw that. We'll talk about it later, if we talk about it. Sometimes you just push that stuff and it never even comes up. But it was something that, I was looking at it today. It was basically saying, let's take a look at everything. I do want to get into robot umps in the challenge system a little bit later. So we'll keep an eye on the time for that. We're about halfway through now. So we will get into that. I'm all about that. But whenever I'm done today, we'll be done. And we'll be all right with that. Okay? I know that listening to one guy for this long, that's why I need the chat filled up. I need your guys' opinions in here. Knock me off my course here a little bit. I want to hear it. Canyon says, let's go off topic. They should have got DeYoung. That's off topic. Yeah, I mean, me personally, if they're going to sign anybody else on the offense, and I'm dead serious about this, if they're going to sign anybody else on the offense, he needs to have a left-handed bat. Just like this pitching, you were not going to bring in any other starting pitcher, or really, in my opinion, maybe any other pitcher, even bullpen, that's anything but left-handed. I guess bullpen I could see if there's closer experience. If there's closer experience, yes. DeYoung just signed somewhere. I forget where. Can you remind us where DeYoung signed? But he did just sign with somebody. Yeah, Sawinski too. I mean, the left hand. Okay, Douglas Smith. What we got? Biggest question marks for this year: Cruz, Haig, and runners of scoring position. That's a good call out right there. The bullpen and base running, and I think that's fair for specifically for Cruz. I think there's more than what you mentioned. Base running is one thing, and you say Sawinski too. Right now, if they don't go anywhere else, there you go. It's with the Nats. Everybody's reminding us there, but Cruz is a big question mark, and it's mostly, is he going to break out and be the player that we really need him to be in order to even compete for a division, or let's even say a wild card spot? It's going to be Cruz. He's going to make the biggest difference, right? And Haig and runners of scoring position is a big thing. Haig, the hitting coach, Matt Haig, and how that'll differ from last year with Andy Haynes. And the fact that runners in scoring position, we've talked about this, the strikeouts with runners in scoring position. Matt Haig is a bat to ball guy. If that kind of thing can translate to this lineup, it's going to pay big dividends for this team in scoring runs. Even if they're one at a time with this pitching staff, which was just bolstered today, with this pitching staff, scoring 1 or 2 runs makes a difference. It's not always, let's see if we can get 3 runs here. So I think it does make a big difference. I think Matt Haig, if he's successful here, that's what we'll see it. That's a good call out. Bullpen is interesting because it was so bad last year, but I just can't imagine it being bad the way it was last year. I can't imagine it being the same. David Bednar should come back fine. For all intents and purposes, they're all talking about how much better shape he's in, how he's in a much better place at this point in the spring as he was last year. All of those things. Colin Holderman with the sickness, Majinski with the injury in spring, and we just had a lot of guys on the shelf early. Sure, Chapman bailed us out, but he also was really bad for some times too. So I don't know. It's really interesting to me. But I'm not sure that the bullpen's a question, but I'm not sure it's the biggest. I would add Nick Gonzalez to that. Nick Gonzalez is a guy who, if he's at second base, he needs to take a step forward. We need to see league average or better offense from Nick Gonzalez as well. He was signed as a bat, or he was drafted as a bat, and that's what we've been waiting for him to come through on. So I think that Nick Gonzalez is a big question mark as much as Cruz is. Will they break out? Will they make another step forward? A big question mark is going to be Key Bryan in his back and whether or not he's healthy. A big question is going to be what in the world they're going to do in left field. If Tommy Pham's going to play well, or if something happens and they go back to Verdugo. Yark out here saying you're still going to try to add another bat, but he doubts they'll get it done. Maybe go back to Verdugo. I have a piece I wrote out on SteelCityPirates.com about why not Verdugo. If you haven't read it, go read it, because I think he actually would help this team. Sure, it's not power, but what this team needs, specifically, we're just talking about runners of scoring position, he offers that. So I think it's there. I'm going to take a drink real quick. So I think there's a lot there. Bucko Mike, that's it. Henry Davis is a big question mark. The catcher position. Will Joey Bart bounce back? Or not bounce back. Will he continue what he started last year? Will Henry Davis figure some stuff out? What's going to happen with Andy Rodriguez and whether he figures stuff out? There's a lot of question marks on this team. OG says, forgot Verdugo was... I don't understand why Verdugo's offseason has been what it's been. I mean, it's been complete silence. And I looked into the player because there was rumors that the Pirates were talking to him. And I don't know what the holdup is. The guy's not a bad baseball player. He doesn't offer a lot of like big tools. He's not a difference maker in that way. Not a lot of home runs. He's a pretty good defender, but like he just does a myriad of things pretty well. And I can't imagine that teams wouldn't need him. But at least with Verdugo, you get bat to ball. I'm telling you, go read that piece. If you're out on Verdugo, go read that piece and see the things that he does well and how it's the things that this team, I forget how many at bats it was, but he did not strike out with a runner on third and less than one out. He did not strike out last year. My goodness, that was the biggest thing we did. And he's a guy who didn't do it. And I know there's a lot of stuff about, we're already past that, right? We're already past that. Maybe this is it. Canyon says maybe he's asking for so much, and who even needs an outfielder now? There are teams that need outfielders. There are teams that need upgrades in outfield. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, the Pirates are one of them. But maybe if he's asking for a lot, beggars can't be choosers at this point. You don't have a job. Miles, this is an interesting right here. As many people down on Fam, I hate Verdugo for this team. If that's trying to compare the attitude, Verdugo's not even in the same ballpark as Fam's attitude. And actually, I might stop there just for the sake of, we had a show about Fam, Tommy Pham. If you want my take on Tommy Pham, go back to that one and we'll go from there. So hopefully he's good for us. Really hope. I'm a Pirates fan first. Okay. So hopefully he's good for us, but my thoughts are there, and I really don't want to go any further. Check it out. But anyway, I still like Verdugo for that reason. And Dave makes a good question. Have they given up completely on Jack? I think the fact that this team hasn't signed anybody to this point, I think the fact that Verdugo doesn't play for the Pirates right now is all you need to know on whether they've given up on Jack. I don't think they have. I think that they have confidence that he's going to respond to whatever it is Matt Haig's going to tell him. Or whatever the team told him on the outset of last year. You see, he got some things going again in AAA last year. They took him down there. They got him going back to his old swing, which is a good thing because his old swing had power and his new swing didn't. Swinging early in the zone at pitches that Jack's strength was seeing good pitches and offering at those and being aggressive at those pitches, not hitting hitters' pitches, not hitting. And yes, you pay for that a little bit. You get more called third strikes. I don't like Jack when it's early in the count. If he gets his pitch, he offers. I don't like him going early just to try to avoid strikeouts. So, and anyway, just to close the loop on that with Verdugo, I think that we project a lot of the bad attitude onto Verdugo more than he actually displays it. And he's only getting older. And with that comes some maturity. I'm not overall concerned about it. Not when you have leaders in the clubhouse already. I mean, whatever. We really need to move on before I go off again. So, yeah, I really like Andrew Heaney. signing. The more I think about it, and this is a today move. Usually we get a few days before we have to do this, but we got one more piece on this, and then we're gonna do a little bit on the ball strike stuff. Who's the move? Once he passes this physical, somebody's got to go. And so, who's the move here for Andrew Heaney? Some notable guys. Brett DeGuss, who has 2 options, so that's something to be considered. Chase Shugart, who has 2 options. Peter Strzelecki, who does not have any options. And Joey Wentz, who does not have any options, which was something that we found out on the last show. Those are the pitchers I think that would probably be the first to go. The position players, Ji-Hwan Bae, who still has 2 options. Emmanuel Valdez, I still can't figure that one out. 1 option. Probably your 2 front runners there as far as position players go. OG says DeGuss. And so like if they were looking at options and trying to make decisions there, why DeGuss over Strzelecki, with Strzelecki having no options? I mean, you're essentially going to get to the opening day roster. You're going to send Strzelecki down. As we talked to on last show, go listen to Sunday's show. Maybe Joey Wentz gets that last spot in the bullpen, who also doesn't have any. Miles says Bay or a 60-day IL outside of your pitching staff. So that could be. I don't know who's. I mean, I've heard there's some guys reporting with some issues, but are they all non-40 man guys that are actually dealing with something? I mean, outside of Spencer, right? But I don't see Spencer Horwitz going 60-day. Yeah, I mean, he should be back in May. I don't even see Oviedo going 60-day. I really don't. I think Oviedo, although, who was it? Bucko Mike, you said June 1st, you said earlier in the chat. So, 60-day puts you, I think, around there, right? I don't see that happening. I think there's a chance Oviedo's before that. And I think Oviedo, who's pitched out of the bullpen before, probably would help this team if he comes up in a long man role. Certainly, next up, unless there's an early injury, next up to be put into this rotation. You also have Bubba Chandler, and the laundry list goes on, right? I mean, the Pirates now have 10 starting pitchers going into this season. We were saying they had 9 before that will probably impact this team this year in some way or another. And now you're looking at, I mean, we already said Skeens, Keller, Jones, Heaney, and Falter, but now you've got Oviedo, you've got Bubba, you've got Thomas Harrington, you got Ashcraft, and you got Burrows. I mean, that's 10 guys right there. Maybe there's somebody else that I'm not thinking of, but it's probably them. Maybe Ferguson, like we talked about that last week, that they did say there was some stretching out that maybe Ferguson was going to be part of that. Is Ferguson dealing with something? Does he have a little bit of soreness in his arm or in his leg or something goofy like that? Was he one of the guys? Because I haven't seen any live BPs with him. Is it possible this guy's maybe not? Hey, is it possible he's going to pull a Harleen Garcia? Flashback to the Harleen Garcia Pirates Fest ball from January 2024 that I've almost rubbed all the way off. Well, the logo, not the autograph. I might be projecting there. I don't know. I don't want to put something out there that's not out there already. I don't know. I thought there was somebody else. So yeah, Miles is saying you want to protect the roster. They do send Oviedo to 60-day. And then essentially what that means is you're pushing him out. March, April. I guess you could still come back in May. My math is bad till I actually, use my fingers to do it. So he could still come back in May. I could see that. I could see Oviedo being put on this 60-day if that's the case. I don't know what the rules are in the minors and when he can start his his rehab, but you can do it for quite a while. And I imagine he's probably going to go short innings and stretch out in the minors. So I could see Oviedo going 60 days, being part of that, just to push off that 40-man decision just another day, right? The more guys you can keep, the better. And so if you can do something like that, I think that's probably a good move. So maybe it is. If not, my bet would be Peter Strzelecki. No options. I don't see a path for him outside of a bunch of injuries. I guess like 2 or 3 injuries. And then I can see a path. That'd be my pick. We good? Anybody else, anything else about in the chat? All right, we got about 15 minutes to talk about some robots. You guys like the term robot umpires? Because I don't. The automatic ball strike system is coming to spring training, not to the major leagues this year. It's not coming in 2025, likely not coming in 2026. Although I could see that being sped up, but likely not. But we're going to see it. And Lecon Park in Bradenton for the Pirates, all the Pirates games, they're going to have the challenge system in place. You're going to see how it works. I've seen the games in Columbus for the last few years. Every time Indy comes into Columbus, I drive down there. I go to 3-4 games that week just to see our minor league guys. And it's awesome. I've seen games with the challenge system and games. They used to do like one season. It was like, oh, we'll do Tuesday through Thursday. We're going to do those 3 games with just robot umps. And then the weekend was done with the challenge system. And then the next year it was flip-flop. The challenge system was during the weekdays. The weekends was using the robot umpires. And the challenge system far and wide is the absolute best. It's actually fun. It actually gives you something to, as a fan, you want the interaction, right? You get that. You get the full interaction as a fan with the challenge system. You want to yell at the umpire, tell him he's not doing good. You can do that. If you've got robot umps calling every pitch, you can't do that. You take away that piece from the experience altogether. You want to see managers standing up for their guys at the plate and telling the umpire, "Come on, that was inside." Even if he knows it wasn't inside, he gets an opportunity to stand up for his player. You want a player to think he was wrong, then get mad and hit a home run. That won't happen. It won't happen because you just be like, "Oh, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about because I thought it was a ball, and apparently the robot said it was a strike, and the robot's always right. So I must be a loser." Maybe not everybody thinks that way. But either way, there's a lot that goes into that element of having the ability to still tell the umpire he was wrong. Even if you don't want to challenge it necessarily, just as a psyche to be like, "Come on, man. I can't challenge all game. So in the spring this year, they've got 2. They've got 2 challenges. What that means is they get a chance to get it wrong twice, which is so silly. In AAA, it's been 3. And why wouldn't it be? This is baseball. 3 strikes, you're out. 3 challenges, you're done. What are we doing with 2? It doesn't make sense. This is baseball. We go by 3s, we go by 7s and 9s and things like that. Just do it that way. Or 6s and 9s. So anyway, that's the idea of it. It should be 3 strikes, you're out. 3 challenges, 3 wrong challenges, no more. So either way, it's a fun time. It's instant. It happens right away. It shows up on the screen. Everybody gets to react to it equally at the same time. There's a little bit of drama involved, which is good for engagement, right? And I don't know. In a way, I actually really like the challenge system because there's some vindication there, I guess is a different way to put it, is if you think they got it wrong, you can make them look at it and you can be right about it. And you can also be just complaining if you were wrong. And so it gives you another way. If you're an away team and you say, "Challenge that," and you're wrong, then the fans can let you have it. You know what I mean? If you're the home team and your guy gets it right, you can let the umpire have it. I think it's actually a great addition to the game. Helps us get things right more often. I'm here for it. And you'll get to see it if you haven't seen it yet. You'll get to see it in spring training games. But all in all, it's a lot of fun. So pay attention to that this spring. And maybe it'll be here in 2026, maybe not. The only thing I don't like about it is it's one step closer to letting the automatic ball strike system call every pitch. And to me, that's boring. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. You guys see that stuff about ESPN? Got a couple more minutes here. ESPN and MLB parting ways. Pretty crazy. Not really a lot to talk about there. It's going to be the same for 2025, but if they don't get a deal done, there is no deal for 2026. So I will say, OG says, I think the challenge will be it. I don't think they ever go all the way to ABS. I think you're right, OG. I would be concerned about it. I don't like it that way. I don't like the all the way. So I think you're right. And Manfred's out 2026, right? He's gone after that. So if the next guy isn't trying to push it as hard, maybe it won't happen. I don't know. I guess that there's always time for change. If he's done after 2026, we just have no idea what's going to happen. But we know that this ESPN stuff is, it's kind of a big deal, right? This is it's a large sum of money. And it seems like Manfred is basically saying like, he's got ideas. He wants to centralize the revenue, the TV revenue, the broadcast revenue straight up to MLB. You do that, you can start all the talks you want about balancing the economics of MLB, but you can't do it until you centralize everything, right? And this is it, Dave. Is ESPN still a channel? I haven't watched that in years. So for a lot of people, it's because they're streaming and they just don't have it. ESPN is going to direct to customer service where they can just like you get anything else, you're going to be able to get ESPN without a cable package, without a Fubo or YouTube TV or anything like that. You're going to be able to stream it. And so ESPN sees that as a growth opportunity. And MLB is essentially calling them out saying, I don't know why we would lower our prices or lower our asking price rather, for a dying network. And I think that's a Manfred quote, a dying network. But at the same time, OG, ESPN's deal is about 25% of the national TV revenue for the MLB. Major League Baseball needs ESPN. Not only do they need them in the state that they are in now, but they also need ESPN to have a deal with them and for ESPN to do well. And I think in the same way, ESPN needs Major League Baseball because if they are dying and if they're at least declining, not having baseball is not going to help that at all. It's a big deal. OG bringing the stats here. That's $540 million gone in 2026 unless they find a new partner to pick that up. OG, that's what it was, right? And so essentially ESPN wanted it to be a lot lower. And I thought it was really interesting for Manfred to say, we could lower that, or we could try to sell that somewhere else. That's a lot to make up. Yeah. ESPN has been a bad partner. As Manfred said, they never promote baseball in their other programming. Man, that's actually the reason why I don't watch ESPN. That's actually the reason why I don't watch it very much. It's few and far between when you actually get to hear about baseball on ESPN. It's they just don't talk about it. And now, the last thing I'll say, and then we start to wrap this stuff up. I do want to talk a little bit about spring training and what we're going to look like. But right now, with MLB Network having their own channel, with NFL Network. I mean, this has been a long time now. These channels have been together. NFL Network, NHL Network, NBA. They've all got their own networks. If you want news that's baseball news, you're much less likely, not to mention social media, right? But it's a lot less likely that you're going to go to ESPN and wait for your news to come by, right? Instead, you're just going to go to the source. Well, if I want to know about Major League Baseball news, I'll go to MLB.com. Or, like I said, with social media and the way the internet is right now, ESPN just isn't let me turn this on and I'll catch everything I need to catch. It just doesn't happen like that. OG bringing them all, man. Let's get OG Minlow says, for context, Fox pays $730 million per year for their deal. TBS $535 million. And so the $540 million that they've had with ESPN, and this relationship goes all the way back to 1990, I read. Not the money, it hasn't been the same, but you know what I mean, in general. And there's a bit like home run derby, man. That was my first question. It was like, I don't care about the wild card round. I don't care about Sunday Night Baseball, which is usually just Yankees, Red Sox anyway. Like, what I care about is what's going to happen to the home run derby. Miles, that's a good point. Let's hold our breath. It's not Apple TV next up. And that's the thing. You have Roku, you got Apple TV, you got, what's the other one they're doing on, weren't they doing some like, Peacock? There was another one that was like Peacock, right? That was just on Peacock and stuff like that. And I don't like that. I think if you're going to, here's the thing that MLB needs to get a hold of no matter how they do it. No matter where it's being broadcasted, it needs to be available on MLB TV, period. And that's what they can't get to with regional sports. And right now with Apple TV and all these exclusive deals, they all take that. Okay, so Roku, the Roku deal I mentioned, took over for Peacock. So they're still getting these games going here and there. And I don't mind it if it's not a ton. But I think there needs to be some way that if they can centralize revenue and centralize the broadcasting, they can eliminate blackouts altogether. I don't know if that's going to be the same. Try to get my thoughts here. I don't know if it's still like these deals that we're talking about now, I feel like will still be exclusive even once they do that. So I don't know that really fixes anything as far as that goes. But yeah, I don't like the games on Apple. I don't get it. I choose not to watch those games. So, it is what it is. So the Roku deal is only $10 million per year, which is why ESPN was upset. I mean, it's a lot more games too. But yeah, it's a mess a little bit. I mean, like I said, 2025 is you've got a year to kind of figure this out, to come up with something else. If it's not ESPN, it's got to be somebody else. But they've got to do stuff. OG, thanks for reminding. It's a good call out because I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. He says all these deals are already centralized. And along with merchandise pays every team about $100 million a year. Local TV is where the imbalance money and blackouts show up. The blackouts, it's more exclusivity when it comes to these channels and MLB TV. They're paying for the exclusive rights to those games. So it's not necessarily a blackout, right? But it's the same because it is the local market is also paying for their exclusive rights. It's just out of market. They MLB TV picks up the slack. But yeah, it's still big. I think it's still a big deal, and I think there's a lot of things that are gonna start going that direction. So it'll be interesting to follow along with, for sure. All right, guys, I am headed to spring training Sunday night. So our normal live show Sunday night will not be Sunday night. And quite frankly, I haven't figured out when. Jake and I have been talking. The fact that he missed tonight, we will try to make it a way to get him here and to get him on the show. That might mean like a midnight show Saturday night. I think right now that's our best option. I don't know if anybody in here is down for a midnight show. We'll probably do it live. There'll probably be nobody watching. But for those freaks that are up at midnight on Saturday night, there's a possibility we'll be doing a show Friday or Saturday night at midnight. Technically Sunday morning, I guess you could say. But I don't think that we work it in any other way because of his work schedule on Sunday versus me leaving at like 5:30 to head to the airport. So I'll be in Bradenton. Actually, I'll be in Clearwater for the first game Monday against the Phillies, and then Bradenton the next 2 days. Same as last year, pretty generally short trip, getting to 3 games and then coming back, but I won't be back until late Thursday. So our next 2 shows are going to be a little different. I don't know what we're going to do yet. We've toyed around with the idea of doing a show on Friday morning next week because I do have the whole week off work. So we toyed around with maybe a late night and then a morning show on Friday morning. I have no idea what time. We still have a lot to work out. So just letting you guys know it'll be a little different than normal. As far as the audio listeners, Friday would be the day that it would be late. If you're used to listening on the way to work on Friday mornings, won't be available until a little bit later in the day. And as far as the other, it should be available Monday morning. Just like normal. Shouldn't miss a beat there. So appreciate you guys as always. Let's play some music and get out of here. Tomorrow's Friday.
Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
So,
if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.
Andrew Heaney, guys, this is a good one. They've solidified a strength, and I don't think there's any way to look at this and be upset about it. Have a good weekend, guys. Let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!